Alright, this is a comic that has not been requested, but I reckon you were all secretly wanting us today. This is Defenders #1 by Kurt Busey and Brie Larson's granddad. Them names alone should let you know that I didn't like this. This was an attempt to relaunch the Defenders in 2001. It failed. It was cancelled after like 9 or 10 issues, and justice was served. From what I understand, this was mostly Brie Larson's granddad's project. He clearly really wanted to draw the Hulk and Seaman and then a bunch of Jack Quimby style monsters. And Kurt Busey, he had to form a comic around it. He's an average splash page, and I do have some very limited positive points. Firstly, and I reckon this was Kurt Busey's contribution, this attempt to relaunch the series, it makes the wise and the correct choice to include the Cat and Batman, two characters who are integral to the Defenders, but are usually ignored in all these failed reboots because idiots like Brie Larson's granddad think these four are the only important ones on the team. We obviously also need Velcro, and Kurt Busey and Brie Larson's granddad will screw that up a lot. Earth is being invaded by aliens, and this is a waste of 2 pages. Could easily just be one and convey the same thing. Most of this is bad art, like David Banner there, he looks like a simian. It's only really the splash pages that Brie Larson's granddad puts any effort into. We got the Hulk there, and he starts fighting the aliens. Kurt Busey's writing, it's the usual problem where he has caption boxes, loads and loads of caption boxes, but then he interrupts them with dialogue, but the caption boxes continue on and it reads really badly. Matches the shoddy art. Doctor Strange, he is written terribly, and this is such a pedestrian and unexciting story. Oh, monsters attack, and that is it. That's why the Defenders, after all these years, reunite. And of course, because it is Kurt Busey, all these monsters, they are from Ad Comics, but written inconsistently and remade as Kurt Busey characters. This one here, he is called Darkcrawler. He was originally called Nightcrawler, but they changed his name for obvious reasons. But no, Kurt Busey, he loves comics so much, and he remembers all the Ad Comics so well, he has him just called Nightcrawler again. Just ignoring the old Darkcrawler name he's been known as in everything that came after his first appearance. Oh, and by the way, would you guess, The Thing, editor Tom Beavort's favourite Marvel character, he is the member of the Fantastic Force who gets a line of dialogue in a single panel appearance. Now we cut to SeaWorld. Seaman is written badly too. His entire character arc since the 60s has just been ignored, and he's back to being an anti-villain or whatever. And he even speaks to Seagirl from the New Warriors with utter disdain, despite their relationship being elfy and familial. And then Seagirl goes, suffering shard. That is the sort of dated shite idiots like Kurt Busey and Brie Larson's granddad like to hold on to try and argue that they are real fans of comic books. They stopped reading comics in the late 70s and they just ate everything since. It's all fake nostalgia for the sake of it. Reset characters to how they are in their memories and just ignore whatever they didn't read because they have no interest in it. And even this splash page isn't great. Silver Surfman, likewise, we are just discarding any evolution or growth since the Silver Age. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Kurt Busey and Brie Larson's granddad, if they pitched and they wanted to re-establish the barrier around Earth that made Silver Surfer unable to leave. That is the exact sort of asinine fake love for comics they have. Look, I remember when Silver Surfer couldn't leave to Earth. I am proper fan, me. Busiek, I remember when Silver Surfer couldn't leave to Earth. So Silver Surfer, he randomly breaks up with his girlfriend because he didn't have a girlfriend in the comics this creative team are familiar with. So all the Defenders, they are being separately attacked by random monsters and baddies. You know what? Them shit monsters from Barry Hamner's Avengers run, they would actually make sense to be some of the beasties that this Defenders team fights in this comic. But them monsters, they come from a comic from the 90s, and like fuck are they ever gonna appear in one of Kurt Busey's fake love letters to his resentful idea of comics. And all these things, they have been summoned by the Defenders' arch enemy, aka the one who appeared in the first Defenders story, because that is about as far as this creative team's love for the Defenders goes. He is called Yanni, but he might be called Laurel. I don't know really. So here we have got the cat, and just before this, she had a mini-series. In that, she had a new costume, and she had a power-up. She had magic, evil demon sight, and Kurt Busey, he just gets rid of both those things off-panel without any real reference. He does the exact same with Batman, really, the exact same. Batman, he had just had a mini-series before this as well, and weirdly enough, the Idea Fairies must have been visiting the Marvel offices, because in that mini-series, they give Batman a new costume and a power-up. He now had magic, evil, demon sight. Kurt Busey, again, just gets rid of both those things off panel. But with Batman, he does make a reference to it, and it is as dismissive as you think it'll be. Here is Batman in his civilian guise, and him and the cat, they got into action. Batman, he has now got a mystical advisor who is really just a plot device for Kurt's convenience, and also how he claims Batman lost his powers. The plot device gathers together the Defenders, and then they fight amongst themselves because Kurt and Grandpa Larsen, they didn't really bother reading any Defenders stories outside of the first few, where the characters were not friends and they were a reluctant team-up. I mean, I've got no problem with the Hulk and Seaman fighting, but Silver Surfer joining in, that is just regressive stuff. These characters have a lot of history together, and it's like all of that is just being reset so two sad-eyed men can pretend to be the ultimate Defenders fans by making the Defenders just be like they were in 1972. And over here, right, look at all of Kurt Busey's fucking writing. When the Silver Surfer is meant to be attacking, he gives a verbose monologue about how humanity and Earth is shit, which again is just setting Silver Surfer's character back to like the fucking 60s. So the Defenders, they are confronted with Yanni or Laurel, and over here is the Kurt Busey special. It is The Secret Life of Yanni or Laurel. Oh, remember his first appearance in Doctor Strange? Well, his motivation wasn't actually what he said it was. You see, he was secretly motivated by Kurt Busey's new direction for the character. Then we have got Marvel footage number 1, Defenders number 5, and Defenders number 69. That one, it was all smoke and mirrors. It wasn't really him. And then down here we got Defenders 119. This one doesn't really count either because Kurt never read it. Oh, and here is a hilarious dismissive reference to that issue, just so you know that it is shit. And then we have got some more monsters and overwritten. I mean, fucking look at that. Overwritten dialogue and fucking caption boxes everywhere. So they have badly drawn fights that have any momentum sucked out by the needlessly long and redundant scripting. Then they all get beat, and Hulk, he gets up again and he starts fighting because that's a great sell for a team book, having the first issue boiled down to one character. And then it's just over because they couldn't think of a proper ending. And Yanni, or Laurel, he died off panel. And here is the big original premise here. As he dies, Yanni, or Laurel, he curses the Defenders to always be brought together in times of crisis because Yanni, or Laurel, he has noted that as he dies, the Defenders all hate each other because they didn't spend 125 issues together. They didn't care about each other. They all despise and hate each other because Kurt Busey and Brie Larson's granddad think that the bickering is all that the Defenders have. And then they all leave, and Silver Surfman hates Earth. And then right at the back, in what would be the letters column, we have got Kurt Busey and Brie Larson's granddad talking about how much they allegedly love the Defenders. And exactly what I said of the story is reflected here. They didn't like the Defenders after, like, the first issue. This is Brie Larson's granddad here in orange. The orange text is him. Let's find it. Where is it? Eventually, after many characters drifted in and out, the original Defenders were neglected in favour of B-list characters, and the book drifted further and further from what it set out to be. What it's set out to be is allowed to change, you fucking senile piece of shit. He goes on, he's critical of the new Defenders, and I didn't like the new Defenders either, but I still think it counts. In any case, I was a fan. No, you weren't. You had 2 or 3 early issues, and then you grew up, stopped reading comics, and then later on discovered that there was comics after those first 3 issues, and you ate them. You ate them because they are different. They didn't match your very specific and limited nostalgia. Then in Blue Hour here, it is Kurt Busey. I was a big Defenders fan too. Going back to just a few issues before Brie Larson's granddad started reading the book. What few issues before their first issue? It's great to see that your love for the Defenders manifests by way of an impossible pissing contest with your colleague. And surprisingly for Kurt, he doesn't reference a single specific thing. He just repeats the same idea that the book got shit after the initial issues that were just about the Sentinel 4, and this whole thing is self-congratulatory bollocks about how he came up with this great idea to have the team cursed. Guess what? This is a shit comic. It's by 2 hate-filled pretend fanboys, and they punctuate it by slamming 95% of the past Defenders books. The characters are written archaically and, I'll say it, just flat out wrong. This is another comic book that is just creators slamming their dicks down onto a table. I might look at some of the other attempts to relaunch the Defenders. Most of them are at least a bit better than this, but I definitely rate this one 7 thumbs up.